Hello everyone. Before we start, I want to straight away give my input on what I thought of the actual story as a whole, single player. It's like any other Call of Duty game. I enjoyed it. It wasn't memorable, but I enjoyed it. I could sit down and play it through in one sitting if I had the time, in my opinion, without getting bored, because it's Call of Duty. You shoot things and you enjoy it. You don't really play it for the amazing story, although some of them have had an amazing story. But now that you know my actual opinion of the game straight off, you know that even though I am going to talk about some bad points and some good points in this, that I did enjoy it. Although, again, I just didn't find it memorable. Some parts are, but most of it isn't. But let's get straight into it. So the first thing I actually want to talk about is the levels of the game. Levels that you actually play through. Like I said in the intro, most of the levels aren't really memorable. They didn't have any sort of interesting actions you could actually do. There was one level that I was memorable, which was the Moscow infiltration mission, where you have to not, at least at the initial start of the level, you don't have to shoot anything or anyone. You actually have to walk around and you have multiple options to go about trying to get a bunker card that you need to access another part of the embassy. There are multiple choices for this, and I played the mission twice because I missed some evidence and I wanted to go back. But on the first playthrough of the mission, I managed to frame a general, and it was pretty cool because you have to actually go and sneak around restricted areas without being seen, and you actually have to go through a little mini game on the computer to actually find your terminal and then route all the connections that have come through your computer to the general's computer to make it look like he's been talking to the CIA. I think that's the idea of it. And then you give it to the investigator who's trying to find them all within the KGB, and he then goes and arrests the general. It's a pretty cool sequence. The other sequence I did was I managed to persuade a prisoner to kill the general by basically holding his family leverage over him, which was pretty cool again. And there was another choice as well, I think to poison the general, but I didn't do that because I couldn't bother playing through the mission 3 times in a row. But the point is, that level was pretty memorable. But apart from that, and one other level which was essentially fan service, because it was one of the older levels from the original Black Ops game, where you have to go into a communications array, I think. But that level was pretty cool because you play as Mason and you find a crossbow bolt, which is a callback to when you used the crossbow in the original Black Ops. It was pretty cool. I liked it, but it was just fan service, really.
I think they said they're prepping the mainframe for extraction with a crane. We find the crane, we find the mainframe.
You walk through an original level for the first half of it. But yeah, as for the levels, some of them memorable, others not so much. 2 missions out of I don't know how many missions there were, but 2 missions weren't really memorable. There are 2 optional missions you can do as well, which require evidence. You don't have to have the evidence, but if you want the quote-unquote good ending, you need to crack certain things by using evidence like a floppy disk and finding who the 3 spies are and things like that. But that was pretty cool, but there's only 2 optional missions, which was disappointing. I would have liked more, like Black Ops 2, I think it was, where you have the optional missions and you have to do them in order to get the good ending, things like that. But it was okay. Again, not memorable, but enjoyable. The other thing I want to talk about is the characters, and unfortunately I don't really have many good things to say about this in my opinion. The characters aren't memorable in the slightest. I remember some of the, for reference, I've just finished the game about 15-20 minutes ago. So you'll think the names of the characters would still be in my head. You are wrong. I remember one character's name called Adler, another one called Park, who comes into play a little bit more at the end of the game. Lazar, and I only remember his name because you have a choice to make with him involved, which I'll talk about later. But all in all, you got Hudson, Mason, and Woods, and the only reason I know them is because they were in the original Black Ops games. Of course, I'm going to remember them because they were cool. They were good. They were good characters in the original Black Ops, and unfortunately in this one they're just kind of there. Really didn't use them to the full potential, in my opinion. And talking about the characters, you got to talk about the voice acting, and some of the voice acting was good. And my negative to say about the voice acting is mainly about Woods and Mason. Woods and Mason are these 2 awesome characters, right? Everyone loved Woods and Mason back in the day when the original Black Ops was out. They were cool. And in this one, Mason's voice actor just doesn't do him justice. He just, I don't know, he's just something not there. Same with Woods. The guy who plays Woods is very similar. He sounds similar, but there's just something missing in the voice, and I cannot put my finger on it, but it just doesn't hit like the original Woods. It's just not got that, it's not got that feeling, and it's very hard to explain what's missing. Yeah, I just know there is something missing.
Look alive. It's Adler's protege.
Phil.
Are you fucking serious right now?
Don't get him started.
Nah. Hold on, let me set the record straight.
Here we go.
So yeah, Castro and I have some history between us. I had the opportunity to off the man, but our intel was flubbed. That's in a tidal wave of shit all the way up to DC.
As for the other characters, to be fair, I couldn't quote a single line that they say, except maybe Adler, and it was, we have a job to do, because that comes into play towards the end of the story. The voice acting was okay for most of the characters. It wasn't top notch, but I'm just very disappointed with the Woods and Mason voice actors, and that's not it makes it sound like I'm calling them. I just don't think, I think the reason I don't like the voice acting there is because I'm so used to the original characters, and there's nostalgia of the original characters. When you put someone new in that place and they try and imitate a beloved character, it just doesn't, for me, just doesn't work, unfortunately. And Woods and Mason, like I said, are just there. They don't really do much. I think they're just there for almost, hey, these guys are in the original Black Ops, let's just shove them in somewhere we can and hope that no one notices we aren't really using them to the full potential. So yeah, bit disappointing, but it is what it is. I also want to talk about the gameplay, and although you can talk about the gameplay for multiplayer and zombies because it's the same game, I feel like I need to talk about it because I genuinely enjoyed the gunplay in this. Like, the gunplay feels nice. I was playing on Veteran for most of the game, and just a little sidetrack with that, I'm not sure if anyone else, I'm one of them people who's like a tryhard who likes to play on the higher difficulties just so I like the challenge. I like that. I think it's fun, you know, dying over and over again to learn can get annoying sometimes, but I find it fun when I finally beat it. But anyway, I was playing on Veteran, and I'm not sure if it's because of the perks I chose for my character in the beginning made it easier. I chose more health and less flinch when you got hit, which in my opinion is a good combination for higher difficulties. I found Veteran, and Veteran's only one below the hardest difficulty. I found it easy most of the time, I should say. Easy most of the time. Some parts were difficult. The one part where it was like on rails, he was in a vehicle, you can't move, and you have to, yeah, when you can't move and you're playing on Veteran and people are shooting at you, it gets a bit difficult. But for the most part, I found it easy playing on Veteran, and that's not me boasting, that's just, I don't know, I'm not sure if anyone else who watches this plays on higher difficulties and found it to be way easier than the other Call of Duties, but it's not a complaint, it's just an observation that I've noticed. I died very little in this game playing on Veteran, and usually, especially things like World at War, Call of Duty 4, a lot of the other Call of Duties, I died a lot, and I mean a lot on Veteran. But this one, not so much. I could go through a whole level without dying once, and I'm not sure it's because the damage was reduced or I had more health because my perks on the flinch really made that much of a difference, so I could keep on target, things like that. It was just easier. And I do think the perks came into play a little bit, but I'd just be interested to get other people's opinions on that because I just thought it was crazy. Anyway, I liked the gunplay. Like I said, it was nice. It felt smooth in my opinion. I'm not playing multiplayer yet, so it could change when I play multiplayer and I get my ass whooped by other people. But as of right now, single player gunplay felt very nice. In this game as well, you actually have a couple points in the story where you genuinely have a choice to make, and I like that. Because Call of Duty is known for its linear single-player stories, and it's not an issue for me, linear. I like sometimes sitting back and just letting the story take me, and I just have to shoot things. It's nice and relaxing, weirdly. You can make choices throughout the game, and one of those choices especially can... I didn't play the game, I didn't make the other choice, I didn't go back and do it, but the choice I made a certain character appear in the future when I could have killed him if I wanted to. And I should have. I definitely should have killed the dude, but he appears later on. If you let the guy live, he actually becomes an optional objective to kill him, eliminate him, in another mission, which is a Kremlin infiltration mission. And I kind of like that. The idea of having that choice there and actually changing the story, even if it doesn't affect the outcome of the game. I just like that single choice. It's very little, and other people might think it's not enough, but I liked it. Just a little change. There's also like I'm going to call it like a dream sequence later on in the game, and essentially there's someone in the real world trying to give you orders, saying you took the right path when this happened, so take the right path. But in reality there's two paths, and every time he told me to do something I always did the opposite to see what would happen. And it was pretty cool. The game was telling you to do one thing, you do another thing, and it's like, yo, what the hell is going on? It reacts to the choice you make, and I like that, even though in the end it doesn't affect anything, but I don't think it does anyway. But it was just, again, it was almost like going against the status quo, you know. Someone's telling you to go right, you go left. It's just, again, some people might not think it's enough, but I just liked, because I know Call of Duty is a linear game, I like it when they put some small choices in there that you can actually make and make a difference, even if the overall outcome is still the same. It's just nice to know they're trying to mix it up a little bit. In the game as well, for the optional missions, there are puzzles. Yeah, I'm gonna call them puzzles that you have to do in order to, like I said before, get the good ending, I think, because you can start the mission without decrypting certain things or finding certain things out. You can start these optional missions. I'm not sure what happens if you don't do them, because I did them, because I'm a little goody two shoes and want to make sure I've done everything correctly. But I found these really fun, and if I remember, I'm gonna show a picture here of the notepad that I used to actually solve these puzzles. Call of Duty actually made me pull out a notepad to do things. I actually enjoyed doing it as well, weirdly. And unfortunately, I enjoyed doing these puzzles, but there was only two of them. There's only two optional missions, and you actually had to collect evidence from other missions in order to solve these puzzles. But there's only two of them, and it kind of disappointed me, because I wanted more. I wanted more puzzles to do, and because of these puzzles, it actually made me want to look for the intel in the game, in the levels. A lot of Call of Duties have intel throughout the levels, but the only payoff that they get is usually like some sort of cheats menu, and the more intel items you collect, the more cheats you unlock, and you can do certain things. I never used that cheat menu, so for me the intel was absolutely pointless unless I wanted to 100% the game, and I'm not really a completionist, so I don't really care. So that kind of intel was pointless to me. But it wasn't this time, because it was an optional mission and you had to decrypt things, and the way to decrypt things was to use evidence you collected from other missions. So it actually made me explore the levels because I didn't want to miss anything, and it was a good idea to do that, in my opinion. Instead of running directly through the level and just completing it and getting it over and done with, I actually took time to explore the levels and appreciate the levels, I guess. I don't know. It was just nice to actually have the intel be of some use to players like me who don't care about 100% completion or using the cheat menu. Just nice. Just a nice addition. On that note though, there were very little levels. The single player was super short. I think there might have been a total of 7 or 8 missions, I'm not entirely sure. I just thought it was really short game. I literally started it yesterday and completed it today, and you know, and I think a lot of Call of Duty games are that short actually, and maybe I'm just being a little bit not biased, but just not remembering how short other Call of Duty games are. But I just thought to myself it was short, especially playing on Veteran. I think I got through it really quickly, but maybe other players like that length, I'm not sure. And I know Call of Duty now isn't really a single player game, it's more about multiplayer, but I would have liked a little bit more story, but what can you do? Talking about the story, I want to talk about the writing in the game and what I thought of the actual story as a whole. So the story revolves around you trying to find a spy called Perseus, which, if you look on Wikipedia, he actually, well, I'm going to say he actually existed in quotation marks, but it was hypothesized that there was a Soviet spy in the US, and Call of Duty Cold War takes that and makes it a reality within the game, and you were trying to find this spy called Perseus, and you're trying to collect intel and find out where he's located and what he's actually planning. The overall story is okay, you know, it's Call of Duty, trying to find Perseus. It is what it is. You go through levels, you collect intel. Oh, he's over here, let's go over here. Oh, there's a new lead, let's go find this guy and capture him or kill him. You do have that choice. Again, you do have those choices in the game, and that's about it. You go from level to level finding new pieces of intel, and in the end you stop Perseus's overall plan of, well, I'm not going to spoil it, but you stop his overall plan. I am going to spoil a couple of things in this, but I'm not going to completely tell you what the ending is in case you want to play through it, whatever. Some of the writing in this, though, was, to me, was just so blatantly bad at times. Like, I'm going to spoil a level here. It's the infiltration mission of the Moscow embassy. You infiltrate the Moscow embassy. Initially, it starts off fine. You're incognito. You're walking through. you actually encounter Zakayev and Dragovich. Oh god, I can't say his name. The guy who put the numbers in Mason's head, or had a part of it, or whatever. You encounter both of them. He walks in the elevator, and you actually get to talk to Zakayev, and you actually have choices to make to try and make sure you don't blow your cover. I thought that was nice. But back to the point, you infiltrate your incognito, and then you get down into the actual this like secure bunker, and then you just start shooting the place up to the point where you run out of the embassy, killing everyone, and you escape, and it's not discreet in any single way. And you get back, and you're like, your characters are like, yep, let's let this guy, because you get a name of sleeper agents, and so you know who they are, and the idea is the CIA then tries to track them back to Perseus. But you just walked into a Russian embassy and shut the place up to get this specific thing, and everything just seems to continue as normal. The sleeper agents continue as normal, as if the Russian embassy wasn't just clearly breached, and clearly, to me it was like, why would anyone, any government, any spy continue their operation when it's so clearly been compromised? But you do, and it works. And in my head I'm like, yo, why? How did that work? It shouldn't have worked. Like, that should have been the end of it. You're clearly onto the dude. Why does he continue to do things why does he not change things up? That's my point. It doesn't change things up, because it doesn't change things up, your characters then all of a sudden can somehow track this spy back to Perseus, and then you find out his plan. You should never have found out his plan once you completely shot up a Russian embassy and clearly got some intel that you should not have had. Just so bad writing at that point. Just seems so... We want to advance the plot so much. It's Call of Duty, so you got to give the writing some leeway, but god damn, that one just was so bad. It's so bad it got to the point where I'm actually genuinely getting emotional. Not emotional. Yeah, emotional. Getting angry talking about this. But damn, yeah, I don't know. And one more thing on the writing. At the end of one of the missions, you have a choice to make between saving one character or the other. Now, these characters didn't really have much of an input in the game previously. Or should I say, they didn't have enough of an input for me to have an emotional, like, I didn't care about these characters, that's what I'm trying to say. And at the end of this mission, they give you a choice to save one or the other. And at this mission, these two characters all of a sudden have like this kind of like romantic interest in one another, or one of them has a romantic interest in the other, and the other's playing hard to get, you know, the kind of usual thing you see in movies, writing and whatever. But this, for me at least, came out of nowhere. Like, there was no other indication before this mission that these two were interested in each other. And at the end of the mission, you realise why they did this. They did this so you could get... So the payoff essentially was, oh, these two characters want to be together, but now you can only save one. Which one are you going to choose? They tried to do it so it's like almost like this, oh my god, I have to make a choice now between these two characters, but I want to save both of them. But I didn't care. Like, I just didn't care. Like, I could have saved one or the other, and I did not care. It just, for me, it didn't work. This whole romantic interest these two had in each other came out of nowhere. They didn't have enough input in the game previously for me to have any sort of emotional connection to these characters. I didn't care about them, and they made you make a choice between the two, and you can only save one of them. From what I played anyway, you can only save one of them. And the reason I ended up saving the character I did is because of the affiliation I chose for my character at the beginning, which was MI6. And in my head, I thought, she's MI6 as well, I'm going to save her. Not because I cared about her, just because she worked at the same company I did, technically. And that's not good writing. Let's move on anyway, a little bit. It's Black Ops, so there is a twist in the end, and I enjoyed that twist. I thought it was cool. It was very similar, in a way, to the original Black Ops games. Like, you know, it's all about sleeper agents and whatnot, but goddamn. But yeah, you get the idea. What I think of the writing at times. It's not great, and then they just do this one thing in the embassy, and it's like, so what? The Russian intelligence community isn't gonna change the ways? They're just gonna keep going, even though they clearly got infiltrated? I don't know. Let's move on. Anyway, to close things out, I enjoyed the single player. It's a normal Call of Duty game. You pick up a gun, you shoot people, and advance the story in a linear fashion with some choices that deviate the timeline a little bit, but it all eventually comes down to the same thing, the same final choice that you have to make in the end. And depending on what choice you choose at the end depends on how the game ends. I only chose one choice and I think it was a good ending. I've not gone back yet to experience any other choices, but the choices are there. The choices you make throughout the game don't really make that much of a big difference on the ending, but you do get one choice at the end which changes how the game ends completely, but the other choices you make throughout the game don't affect that choice. I hope that makes sense. For anyone wanting to buy Call of Duty just for the single player, which I don't know if anyone does anymore, but if you do want to buy it just for the single player, I wouldn't really recommend it. If it goes on sale one day, maybe, but if you want to just play the single player, don't do it. You're going to get like a few hours out of it, maybe a few more if you want to go back and do all the other choices and see what actually happens, but just for the single player, nah, not worth it. Like I say, it's just okay. That's about it. Other than that, that's about all I have to say. I hope whoever's watching this enjoys your day, and I will see you the next time I do a quote-unquote review, which is just me talking about my thoughts of the game with barely any structure. Anyway, see you guys next time.